So, good evening and welcome to a talk on your function really as a miracle worker and what does that mean. And we're using Course in Miracles language tonight, but it'll become self-evident as we go along. And I'll draw attention to A Course in Miracles, Chapter 2, specifically Section 5, the function of the miracle worker. And if you understand this, there is almost an instant, if you truly understand it, there's almost an instant transcendence into the knowing of it. The challenge with theoretical constructs or anything we learn always comes back to not just understanding it, but if it's truly helpful, transcending understanding into knowing that it becomes an all-pervading sense of awareness. And learning anything, why do we learn anything? Surely any of us that embark on a spiritual quest or a spiritual journey, and I don't really like the word spiritual because it's a bit of a loaded word, but any of us that go on a journey to truly know the nature of self and know the nature of God and know the nature of true reality, we embark on what appears to be learning, and we actually only learn to remember. We're not learning anything new. We're unlearning that which isn't true and thus remembering what is. And so true learning is really the undoing of beliefs and concepts and ideas that are our obstacles, that are the filters to full self-realization. And in A Course in Miracles, the function of the miracle worker brings very, very specific attention to as to why we think we suffer. We cannot suffer. Suffering happens, but we don't suffer. Suffering is really just illusion. An illusion seems to happen, but doesn't actually happen. And if we've bought into the illusion, then we seem to suffer the illusion. And the text says, before miracle workers are ready to undertake their function in the world, it is essential that they fully understand the fear of release. And there's the vital word, fear of release. Now, you've heard me say many a time before, our greatest fear isn't the fear of death. Our greatest fear is never having lived as an individual entity. And that's one of the greatest fears. And that's why we hang on to the deity, the Jesus and the us and the God. And hopefully one day us and Jesus are in heaven, with God. And that's, of course, objectifying bodies or even bodies as spirits, either in the physical world or some spiritual world. And therein lies the obstacle, because if you truly realize there's only you, and when I say there's only you, each and every single one of us is that you that I speak of, that I that dreams. And a part of that I that dreams, the mind's awake. A part of that mind that dreams is asleep. We want to release ourselves from dream. And so the release, true release, we fear true release, because it means letting go of the entire. It's using Gary Renard's title of his book, Disappearance of the Universe. If the entire universe disappears, all bodies disappear with it. Why? Because it disappears and fades into the light of awareness, light, right-mindedness, Christ mind, which is the essential essence energy we share with God. And unless we do that, it says otherwise, they may unwittingly foster the belief that release is imprisonment. Again, that's our greatest fear, is the fear of never having existed at all. We want peace, we want joy, we want God to come down and fix our dream. And hopefully one day we return to the spirit world where we and our family members and doggies and cats and aunts and uncles and moms and dads and all the people we love are happily ever after. And the very idea of all of us dissolving and there's only one being, and all of us are simply characters in the dream that have never really existed, is a great state of fear that comes as we started to realize the non-dual. And here's the catch. This misinterpretation rises in turn from the belief that harm can be limited to the body. And that is because of the underlying fear that the mind can hurt itself, that your thoughts can hurt you. And if you ever listen to any spiritual talk and someone puts up their hand and asks a question, they must inevitably first have to tell you a story. They have to give you the background to their suffering. And it comes down to that. I am this because of what the world did to me. I am this because of what I've undergone. So we still make ourselves real. We don't identify with the essence of what we are, spirit. We identify with the body, mind, hopefully with a spirit inside it, is the way most people see it. None of these errors is meaningful because miscreations of the mind do not really exist. And what's the miscreation of the mind? Besides the everyday errors that we resist in fear and sin and guilt, the entire universe is the miscreation. It's a projection of pure light energy appearing as a universe, planets and stars and solar systems and the world and bodies and so forth. This recognition is a far better protective device than any form of level confusion because it induces correction at the level of error. So when you start to realize none of this means anything and you don't need to find meaning in it, you don't need to try and understand anything. In actual fact, you cannot understand anything because no thing exists to understand. There's just the eternal lightness of being, the present moment awareness extending forever. And there's nothing to know but being thyself. So the recognition of self, the recognition of the light of awareness that's the answer. It is essential to remember that only the mind can create. And true creation is extension. And what do you extend? Love, light, God, essence, energy, peace. Okay. And that correction belongs at the thought level. Now, the fundamental difference between A Course in Miracles and any other non-dual teaching, it comes down to, besides all the spiritual mumbo and mysticism that helps with everyday life. But the fundamental difference is that God isn't dreaming. An extension of God is dreaming. Extension, son of God is dreaming. And he has dreamt up this entire universe. And he's dreamt this entire universe in order to keep himself preoccupied and entertained with bodies, places, things, and events in order not to look within and realize he's made an error. And the reason he doesn't want to look within is because he cannot remember that he made an error and therefore assumes he's done something wrong. And that assumption is what's brought about fear and guilt. So the dreamer refuses to look at himself because he believes that whatever's created him is going to punish him for his creation or his miscreation. And so if he can keep himself preoccupied with the contents of his dream, people, places, things, and events, and create gods and angels and stories, then he can keep himself entertained, never take responsibility, use his fractured characters to blame each other and keep each other bound in slavery, therefore never turning inwards and realizing, I am that which dreams. And we do this daily. And one of the most common questions asked in any non-dual circle is, why did we do this? Well, you can't ask why you're doing it if you're still doing it. Ask yourself, why do I choose to dream? Why do I choose to judge? Why do I choose to blame? Why do I choose fear over being myself knowingly, being the love of God knowingly? To amplify an earlier statement, spirit is already perfect and therefore does not require correction. So imagine you're about to ask a question on why you suffer and you were to stop and realize I'm spirit. Can spirit suffer? No. So the minute you are in resistance to anything, the minute you have anything to complain about in this world of dreams, means you've identified or misidentified with bodies. And the minute you misidentified with bodies, you're trapped in the belief that bodies can suffer and bodies can die. If you realize you're spirit, you'll never take death seriously. You'll never cry at a funeral again. You won't miss anyone, because how can you miss anyone since everyone is in your mind? You really only miss them when you do not know self and them as one. That's what it really means to miss someone, is to miss the mark, to sin, miss the mark. You miss the fact that we are one indivisible self. Now, you're hearing this more and more in the non-dual circles today. Rupert Spira specifically is a great, propagator of this message, in that peace or joy or awakening to self is simply the recognition of our shared being with God, one shared being. Our being and God's being is one. But there's another level beyond this. And that all of it is God extending. And we are simply the extension of God that temporarily had a dream, dreamt of a universe of bodies and ideas and concepts and religions and spiritual beliefs, and then believed that we are them, and we're trapped in that belief, and now we resist it. And so we'd rather choose to focus on the external contents of our dream than the internal content. And only when you start focusing on the internal content do you realize where the conflict is. And once you recognize the conflict is in the mind, in our fractured, segmented, fragmented, subjective, objective mind, the minute you realize the error is there, there's only one solution: return to silent stillness. Now, trying to abide in silent stillness while unforgiven thoughts are there, you're going to find it incredibly difficult. And hence, the other fundamental difference between A Course in Miracles and any other non-dual teaching, and that is that it really emphasizes the practice of practical, true forgiveness. Now, forgiveness appears to have many layers, and you've heard me speak of the different layers of forgiveness. But A Course in Miracles forgiveness is there's no layer. True forgiveness in A Course in Miracles is this never happened, but there's nothing to forgive. But forgiving to release is the beginning of the process. Forgiving because you've realized the lesson is another level. Forgiving because you realize you've done this to yourself is another level. And then realizing it's never happened, true forgiveness. What the Course emphasizes, again, very specifically in this, the passage says, the body does not exist. Only spirit exists. Spirit, God, energy. Except as a learning device for the mind. And whenever the Course uses the little word mind, it means dreaming mind. And mind and thought are identical. And does spirit think? No, when you're being, there's no thought. So there's an appearance of thinking, and that's why the word mind is used. We even use capitalized M, mind, to denote the mind of God. But these are concessions, because mind of God is pure spirit. Spirit and mind is the same. But little mind means a mind trapped in its own delusion, trapped in its own dream. And so if you have no mind, you have no thought. And spirit doesn't actually have mind, because mind is actually the activating agent of spirit while it dreams. In truth, in its purest absolute reality, it's just pure light ever extending. So the body does not exist except as a learning device for the mind. This learning device is not subject to errors of its own, except we attribute it that way, because it cannot create. It is obvious then that inducing the mind to give up its miscreations is the only application of creativity, a creative ability that is truly meaningful. Let me reread that line. It is obvious then that inducing the mind to give up its miscreations is the only application of creativity or creative ability that is truly meaningful. So true creativity and true creation is extending. And extending what? What we are. And what are we? The love of God. What is love of God? Pure, through our body minds, filtered. Perception is peaceful joy. And peaceful joy are the foundations of peaceful joy, triangulate, love, unconditional, total acceptance of what is. Really, just contemplate on that. Without peace, you have no joy. Without joy, you can't have peace. And it's not perpetual. And when you have perpetual peace and perpetual joy, you have the opening up of, in total clarity and complete certainty, unconditional love. And what is that? Pure energy just flowing. In this world, in the dream, magic is the mindless or miscreative use of mind. And hence all the occults and all the magic spells and all the rituals that spirituality is steeped in. And hence the religious fanatics think anything spiritual or paganism or witchcraft is all the same. Physical medications are forms of spells. So any type of corrective application in this world is a form of spell. But what the Course also makes very clear is, if you do not realize self fully and you get sick, take the medications, go see the psychologist. Very often what Course in Miracles people do, or non-dualists do, or spiritual people do, is I'm spirit. I'm not a body, I'm free. They get it. They get it. They understand it, but they haven't transcended it. They don't know it. Because once you know it, and you'll know when you know it, that's when true healing takes place. Now, the body still dies. People think, well, awake to self, your body won't die. You'll ascend like Jesus. These are stories. The ascension of Christ is the mind, not of the body. Okay, so the real source of healing is mind, capital M mind, because capital M mind, which is spirit, which is God, is permanently healed. So the word healing is actually another word for awakening to self. True healing is just the recognition of our shared being. The body doesn't heal. It may seem to be corrected in terms of its ideas of what sickness and disease is. But when you can accept that that device that you used as a learning device has a lifespan and is going to crock of something, something's going to kill it, even if it's just age. When you can just accept that, and the fact that the essence of what you are lives eternally, and if you truly want perpetual freedom, total liberation, total peace and joy, then don't imagine leaving the body and going somewhere else as something. Imagine putting the body down and returning to the infinite lightness of being, the infinite lightness of awareness, where there is no you, there is no God, there's no Jesus, there's no you, there's no family member, there's just light. And that scares the bejesus out of everybody, because, I want to go to the spirit world where Jesus holds my hand, or Ramana Maharishi, or whoever the deity is, and my family members are there, my doggies are there. That is the belief in bodies. And so it's either body physical or body spiritual. There's no body, there's just energy, light. Whenever the Course uses the word, like the next sentence, I have already said that miracles are expressions of miracle-mindedness, the assumption is always Jesus speaking. It's not. Like I've said before, yes, Jesus is a brother in the mind, and what remains in the mind of Jesus is the history and the teachings and the lessons, and they could be refined. But what's speaking to us directly in A Course in Miracles is our right mind talking to our dreaming mind. So when the Course says, I have already said, it's the right mind talking. It's only at mind level. It's not Jesus or the mind talking to you as a body. It's the mind talking to itself. It's the right mind calling the dreaming mind its asleep self to awaken to its awake self. And since the mind is talking to itself, that voice of the mind, which is holy, holy voice for God, is heard by the characters that have dialed out of the wrong-minded station into the right-minded station. So I have already said that miracles are expression of miracle-mindedness. What is a miracle? It's returning to the awareness, present moment awareness of that which we are. Awareness itself, love itself, light itself. And miracle-mindedness means right-mindedness. Right-mindedness means awaken to self, means the awareness all-pervading. That is what true meditation is. True meditation is an all-pervading state of being, even while you chop wood, fetch water, feed the kittens, and drive your car to work and back. The right-minded neither exalt nor depreciate the mind of the miracle worker or the miracle receiver. They don't make anybody higher. There's no higher. It's all equal. However, as a correction, the miracle need not await the right-mindedness of the receiver. So as a miracle worker, what you don't do is you don't get on your soapbox and start preaching. And what you certainly don't do is go and try and convert everybody. You're sitting having a conversation with people, and are you constantly correcting their dualistic understanding? If you truly want to be right-minded, you simply bring joy to the situation, not correct people all the time and tell them what's wrong with them and what's wrong with their belief. And that's how you alienate. And that's how you push people away. In fact, its purpose is to restore him to his right mind. And the only way you return anyone to their right mind, your own right mind, is to bring joy into any situation, to bring peace into any situation, not to bring corrective spiritual understanding. It is essential, however, that the miracle worker be in his right mind, which means you realize you don't cast your pearls upon swine. You talk to people at the level that they understand. And if you don't, you're going to be alienated and you're going to end up alone, and you're not going to be able to go to a single family function or friendship function, because you're going to be that loony bin that every time someone speaks, you're going to go, the universe is not real. This isn't real. That isn't real. This isn't true. It's all an illusion. But please pass the ice cream. The healer who relies on his own readiness is endangering his understanding. You cannot get yourself ready. You are made ready by abiding. You are perfectly safe as long as you are completely unconcerned about your readiness, but maintain a consistent trust in mind, right-mindedness, mind, right-minded. If your miracle working inclinations are not functioning properly, it is always because fear is induced or has been intruded on your right-mindedness and has turned it upside down. All forms of not right-mindedness are the result of a refusal to accept the atonement for yourself. And this is what we're getting at tonight. You're not here to fix the world or heal anyone. You often hear this, and you hear this from fairly advanced course teachers. Advances, and they've been doing the course for many, many years. Oh, this is wrong with the world, and that's wrong with that person, and I just wanted to go to that one and touch them and heal them and give them a hug and fix them. If you're seeing error in the world, beloved, it's in your mind. The error is with you, and that's why you're seeing it. Realize atonement, at one-ment, you becoming one. Atonement is just another word for awakening to self. That's what atonement is. The recognition of our shared being is atonement. If you recognize every single beingness and every single living organism, everything in the universe shares its essence, energy, its beingness with God's being, that's it. That is what atonement is. How much you don't, it's not aha and angel musics and full body orgasm and ice cream in your mouth. And it's, wow, just amazing. And now you walk on water. That's false expectation. True atonement is just the recognition of our shared being, recognition, one indivisible Christ in one indivisible source energy, God. If you do accept it, you are in the position to recognize that those who need healing are simply those who have not realized that right-mindedness is healing, because right-mindedness is always healed. And therefore, if you see others that need healing, you haven't recognized yourself. Therefore, you're operating from a wrong-mindedness point of view. And here's the answer, which you have to either accept this course completely or not at all. The sole responsibility of the miracle worker, and miracle worker is, in the Course in Miracles, is a term that in any other school of thought would be called the seeker. Okay, so the miracle worker, miracles, remember, is just right-mindedness, thought reversal, seeing anew. So the sole responsibility of the miracle worker is to accept the awakening to self, the atonement for themselves. This means you recognize that mind is the only creative level and that its errors are healed by the atonement. The recognition, healing is achieved by the recognition of our shared being. Once you accept this, your mind can only heal, return to its natural state. By denying your mind any destructive potential, in other words, resisting, complaining, and finding fault with the world, and reinstating its purely constructive powers, seeing the love, joy, and peace in everything, seeing the face of Christ, love, the face of love everywhere, you place yourself in a position to undo the level confusion of others. And you hear people, I mean, the whole course community seems to be going through it right now. The atrocities in the world and the natural disasters in the world, and it's getting worse, and it must be coming to an end, and surely there's a rapture coming, there's going to be a quickening, and we're being lifted, and there's a period. This is all gobbledygook nonsense. Throughout time, people are saying it's the end times. But there's an acceleration now. It's the same. And what does it matter if there's an acceleration or not, and you haven't awoken to self? Focus only on self and God. Focus only, in actual fact, on God, and the self will be revealed. So deny your mind any destructive powers, which means do not give any attention to attack thought, whether in your own mind or coming through what appears opinions of others. In actual fact, when those thoughts appear, no thanks, starve them of all attention. The message you give to them, the message you then give to them is the truth that their minds are similarly constructive, and their miscreations cannot hurt them because it's one indivisible line. And so as it's spat out 8 billion on this planet and 9 septillion throughout the universe, it spat out versions of itself, each one trying to deny itself, its true self, looking for reasons to stay asleep, looking for diversions and to blame something else, looking for entertainment in order not to recognize the essence of what it is. But as individual fractured parts of that dreaming mind turned inwards and recognized our shared essence, the mind slowly started to awaken to itself. Our dreaming mind started to dissolve, big bang, and the awakening of self is taking place. By affirming this, you release the mind from over-evaluating, the greatest mistake we all do, overthink. So next time you get caught or you get trapped with something and you're not sure what it means, don't go into overthinking. Simply say, show me another way to see this, and park it. And the minute your mind wants to go back to it and try and evaluate it and try and understand it, no, don't give it any thought. If you abide in silent stillness without trying to overthink it, just abiding in the silent stillness, the answer will come. Don't believe me, put it to practice. By affirming this, you release the mind from over-evaluating its own learning device and learning device activities, and restore the mind to its true position as the learner, true learner is the rememberer. Those that remember themselves remember God for the rest of us. And then I'm going to take it to a line, okay? And again, it's that reinforcement. Corrective learning always begins with the awakening of spirit. So what's the awakening of spirit? It's the awakening of your shared essence. Your spirit is holy. God is holy. Our shared essence, our shared energy, our shared soul with God. And the turning away from the belief in physical sight and therefore the belief in bodies, people, places, things, and events. And this often entails fear because you are afraid of what your spiritual sight will show you. And what your spiritual sight will show you is just light. God is the light with which I see. God is the light. I am the extension of light. There's no me, there's no you. There's nowhere where God ends and I begin. It's just pure one indivisible self. And that's why it's a choice. Like it says, I said before that the Holy Spirit cannot see error. So not seeing error, not judging, not complaining, not resisting is a choice. Every time the resistance wants to come, the complaint thought wants to come, I want to go and tell my story. I want to say there's something wrong and please help me and give someone my problems. Before I open my mouth, I catch the thought and I go, no thanks. I'm spirit, I'm free. I'm perfectly healed. I'm always as God created me. And there's no doubt that this creates discomfort. Yet the discomfort is not the final outcome of the perception. The discomfort is the ego saying, no, no, no. Oh, I start getting panicky and I start getting anxiety. People tell me that as they start to awaken itself, there's an anxiety, there's a resistance. They say, oh, am I going to die now? So what? So what if the body dies? You are spirit. But that discomfort, and people say, I'm getting attacked by demons and I'm getting attacked by, hey, and they talk about the fifth stage or the eye of the needle, and they carry on about the eye of the needle. There is no needle and there is no eye if you are purely spirit. Because the I dissolves. The little I projected, the I observer, both dissolve. The I am dissolves, and all there is silent stillness. And everything that results from spiritual awareness, spiritual sight, present moment awareness, spiritual awareness, is merely channelized towards correction. You start realizing what everything is for. Discomfort is aroused only to bring the need for correction into awareness. So the minute you start feeling uncomfortable and anxiety, realize, I need help, and ask for help. Ask and you shall receive. But to ask for help means you've got to ready yourself for help. to be helped. And the only way you can be helped is by abiding. Take it from someone who spent his life studying psychology, blah, 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 hypnotherapy techniques, trauma, blah, 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 in order to help others. I realized by just abiding, the healing got done. Didn't have to do anything. All those hours of studying and writing dissertations and research projects to come up with a doctorate in behavioral psychology in order to help others heal. I thought I needed to help others heal. Others heal. I healed. But I healed when I had just abided in contemplation, and then the silence overtook the whole contemplation process. And in the silence, the healing was restored. And then I'd come out of it, and things that would trigger me in the past would pop up, and there would just be no reaction at all. None. I couldn't understand it. Where did this disappear to? And then I started to realize how addicted I had been to anger and vengefulness, self-righteousness, because that's what triggered the ego. It gave the ego an identity, the good guy. It's going to come and fix the world. The fear of healing arises in the end from an unwillingness to accept unequivocally that healing is necessary for a mind asleep, but healing is not necessary for a mind awake. What the physical eye sees is not corrective, nor can error be corrected by any device that can be seen physically. Ask for help, abide in silent stillness, gratitude, and watch what happens. Put it to practice. Healing is an ability that developed after the separation, before which it was unnecessary. Why? Because the light of God is perfect. I don't even want to say healed, because healed means unhealing. The light of God is perfect. Like all aspects of the belief in space-time, it is temporary. And so the emphasis of what I want to bring tonight and what I want to discuss tonight, then I'm going to open to questions, is it must, the last sentence in this, in chapter 2, verse 5, it must be understood, however, that whenever you offer a miracle to another, you are shortening the suffering of both of you. This corrects retroactively as well as progressively, because time is not linear and in both directions. It's non-existent. And how do you offer a miracle to others? When they ask for help in terms of understanding something, you offer another way to see it. When they ask, but the best way you offer a miracle to others, in actual fact, the way you offer it to the rest of your fractured selves, the world, is by seeing it already healed and thanking God that He's given you the insight, the inner vision to see a healed world. In other words, the world, the universe, your dreaming mind, healed, restored to right-mindedness. You don't have to put your hands on anyone. You don't have to bless anyone. If someone asks you to pray for them, the best form of prayer is to thank God that you can see them, their mind healed, and they no longer see themselves suffer. The best prayer you can ask God, because the best form of prayer is just gratitude, but the best form of request you can ask of God in prayer is to show me another way to see this. And Holy Spirit, which is really my right mind, use my right mind to view my miscreation and to bring the correction back into my awareness, that I realize I but look on a dream that is already over from the end point. Looking at it, what appears as time, I'm actually looking backwards at it. But if I recognize our one indivisible self has never left the kingdom, is still forever the love and extension of God, then I realize I but look on a dream that never happened. And I am here now, the love, the extension, and the voice for God in my own dream, where I've chosen to be a light to my fractured selves, reminding all of us that as appearances, we are just thoughts that have taken form in order to recognize what we are through the experience of what we're not. And now that I know what I am, even that knowing dissolves, and even the I am dissolves, because that's the doorway. And what was I am this and I am that has become I am. Simple observation, the decision maker. I am, and we even drop that. We state God is, and even that falls away, and simply silent stillness, and the awareness becomes all pervading. And from that place, we then pour back into the world. And I need do nothing really means you can't do anything. You just become that awareness in a dream where awareness is severely lacking, and you become present. And whenever you engage the world, you engage it from the joy of your being, and you bring light to the world. You don't bring Course in Miracles to the world. You don't bring religion to the world, or spirituality to the world, or teaching. You bring yourself joyously into it, and you lift whatever's around you, and you pour yourself in joyously. And if you can be the joy in a room where joy is severely missing, you are the light, because light is joy and light is peace. You don't come there to convert. Religion tried that and failed. Don't turn non-duality into conversion and converting others. Non-duality isn't about converting others. Non-duality, especially A Course in Miracles, is simply the recognition of our shared being. No more than that. It's just so simple. But you have to be willing to be vigilant, so that when the yap yap starts, no thank you. And that when you engage, it's not to go and fix other people's point of views and tell them they're wrong and this is the way to look at it. Simply pour yourself joyously. You'll do more for the healing of the world by posting memes and jokes and telling jokes than you are there telling them how to think. Try that.